Green Bay Packer Cup to start. Man, that is my man right there. Okay, so we are going to convene the executive committee of the HWMA agency, JPA authority, and I'm going to turn it over to our executive director, Jill Duffy, to take us through our order of business.
First order of business is to approve consent calendar, which are 2 minutes, including last month, which we didn't have a quorum. Dean and Karen asked me to emphasize that.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar.
Did you guys send this material out?
Yeah.
When?
Twice.
Jill, I'm sorry. I'm getting hundreds of emails a day. Like, I'm sorry. Like when?
I would have to, let's see, it was a week ago today. Is that correct, Tyler? Or was it?
I think it would have come from Tyler.
Yeah, it did come from Tyler.
Yeah, because I'm not getting anything from you when I do a search.
I just sent it, Amy.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so we have a motion by Rio Dell and a second by Eureka to approve the minutes of the Executive Advisory Committee of April 18th, 2019 and April 16th of 2020. Any discussion about those minutes? Hi, Mandy.
Hi, sorry, it took me a second there.
Any other questions before we go through this one, Amy?
I don't have the packet, so I don't feel like I can vote on it right at the moment. It's not popping up in my email.
I'll make sure it's sent.
Mandy, there's a motion and a second to approve the minutes on the consent calendar item. That's what we're discussing right now.
Okay.
Did you not find it, Dean?
It doesn't even appear in my outbox. That's weird.
No, you just popped up. And Jill, I just did a search on you. I don't have anything from you since March. So I don't know if sometimes the county blocks emails.
Oh, you mean we're not
Did it come
important
from
anymore?
Tyler?
Let's see here.
And I looked for Tyler and I don't have a Tyler one either. So I don't know if.
I just forwarded it to you as well, Amy.
I have it from Dean now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hold everything up.
No, that's okay.
I'm looking at it now. My apologies. Okay, I'm good.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for the minutes of April 18th, 2019 and April 16th, 2020. I'm going to do the vote by roll call. Rio Dell.
Aye.
County of Humboldt.
Aye.
City of Eureka.
Aye.
City of Blue Lake.
Aye.
Sorry, Merritt. City of Arcata is an aye, so unanimous. All right, our next agenda item. I'm going to take this one. This is going to be to select a chair and a vice chair for 2021.
Got it.
So the floor is open for nominations. I see that Kyle is super interested. Oh, maybe Mandy, huh?
I think Mandy and Dean would do a great job.
There we go. I like that. I'll make the
Dean and
nomination.
Mandy.
I vote Kyle. I vote for Kyle's dog.
Kyle does have the best dog.
This is just for the executive committee. I mean, at some point, you guys would just kick me out of the city manager CAO group. But it would be good probably to transition after a couple of years. It's
And I
not
do
very
wanna-
hard, Mandy.
And I do want to point out that Kyle was our chair for a bit too.
Yeah, I think
You had 2 years.
I'll be vice president under Mandy's stern.
Oh. Great.
All
I
right,
would
so we had
sure.
That was under duress.
That was the shortest campaign speech in the history of campaign.
It's a pandemic. I mean, what are you gonna do?
All right, Kyle, you want to make that motion?
I will make the motion to appoint Chair Mager as the chair and Vice Chair Lauder as the vice chair.
All right. Any further discussion? Oh, second. Thank you, Amy. Seconded by the county. All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. City of Rio Dell,
Aye.
County,
Aye.
Eureka,
Aye.
Blue Lake,
I
and Arcata is an aye, so that's 5-0. You could have voted no. You could have done that.
I guess it's my turn to step up and do something.
All right, so our next item is to receive and discuss a draft fiscal year budget for 2021, recommendations for a final budget to the HWMA Board of Directors. Do you have some comments or any kind of report, Jill?
I do. I'll go ahead and throw you guys on a quick PowerPoint screen. But I do want to remind everybody that as the Executive Advisory Committee, you're responsible for reviewing the annual budget and then providing some input to the board. And further, for some of our newer members, for years, we've also held monthly agenda meetings with the staff of each of the entities on a monthly basis. And in the last year, attendance has really fallen off. And so it's really important that we're making sure that you guys are being informed more directly. So in the last 6-7 months, I think we get maybe 1 or 2 people to participate on those monthly calls right now. And they've actually been the city managers, Kyle and Mandy in particular. So just want to let folks know that it's been a bit of a struggle because we really want to make sure that we're keeping everybody apprised of any of the changes or trends that we are seeing, because obviously it affects your customer solid waste and recycling fees. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and begin the presentation. I'll pop it up. Let me know. Did it make it on?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. And now I'm trying to find my slideshow here. I've got all sorts of pop-ups here. So obviously, fiscal year 2020, 2021, this is what our calendar looks like. We'll be presenting the final budget to the board in May, and we'll also have the fee rate resolution, and it'll go into effect on July 1st of this year. As with years past, we did consider last year's budget as the base document. We've continued to work to identify where internal savings could be made, and we will continue to identify and evaluate necessary budgetary actions so that we remain stable, which is going to be even more important as we're looking at COVID-19 fallout. One of the things that I want to bring to your attention, which is in the packet that I know Amy hasn't had a chance to sink her teeth into, but we did include budgeting for a compensation survey implementation. This was presented to the board at the March meeting, and it's a really key component around our abilities for our entry-level positions to meet state minimum wage. So this is something that we've been attuned to as far as whether the governor's office is looking at suspending it, because right now we are not on track to meet minimum wage for a number of our employees. So the compensation survey was designed to help get us into a more competitive place again. Obviously, this was all before COVID-19, and we're all dealing with the same thing right now, so I'm not going to bore you with this, other than the Eureka Recycling Center and our household hazardous waste facility was closed, and we are looking at what it's going to take to reopen with some of the new orders with the Public Health Department. So from a budgetary perspective, it's too early for us to predict impacts. So we recommended to the board at our last meeting that they receive the draft budget that was presented, that they discuss and provide us any additional direction, and we'll bring them back the budget in May. We are going to continue monitoring trends, and we would return to them at mid-year or sooner if adjustments are necessary. Now, while most of the world has come to a standstill, it's been the great cleaning of Humboldt County. So while we've seen commercial tonnage decrease, we are not seeing an overall decrease because of the amount of material that's coming in from self customers. So we having blown by right through this. Hopefully I'm not freezing up. You guys are all there. So operating budget assumptions, we're still looking at 75,000 tons per year, and this would continue our existing programs and services. We are proposing some changes to our non-standard material fees, and our expenditures by and large contract CPI adjustments at about 2%. Our payroll increase is 8.12%, and that is all inclusive for PERS, medical workers' compensation, as well as the compensation survey implementation and capital improvement projects. We are looking this year at an overall waste management fee increase of 0%. So this is our 5th consecutive year of not raising the rates. This is just a quick snapshot of what our revenues are looking like at $14,300,099.20. And same with our expenditures, and we really are this thin. We don't have any room in terms of net income at this juncture. We will be having our final payment this upcoming fiscal year for our long-term debt obligation. Most of you know that we had about $14 million bonds that were taken out when the authority was initially formed through the debt restructure that we did a few years ago. We are on track for having this obligation completed by November of 2021. So we will see a sort of a release of that obligation. And it's one of the reasons why we've worked really hard to keep our belt as tight as we can so that we're not seeing an increase of rates only to potentially decrease them next year. We have a number of capital improvement projects that have been identified with respect to COVID-19. If we are needing to contract some of our expenditures, we would be not moving forward with the vehicle replacement or some of the planning and replacement activities relative to the transfer station scale house. The pit scale and blower 3 up of the landfill are both necessary, but we will just go ahead and adjust from there. Our waste management fee, most of you are familiar, is comprised of 3 primary components: the countywide program fee, the base tip fee, and our facility fees. There are some other charges that we're going to go into, which is the non-standard material fees. There we are proposing to make some changes. But in terms of the material that's coming in as solid waste to be hauled and disposed of at landfill, this is the component that we're talking about. So for self-haul, we are anticipating 20,000 tons per year at HWMA's transfer station, 39,000 a year of franchise waste at our transfer station, Eel River Ecology and Humboldt Sanitation at 5,000 and 6,000 respectively, and out of area self-haul at 5,000. Overall rates, you'll note that are down here. So for self-haul, it's 155.82 a ton, and for franchise, it's 129.01. And satellite fees will be at 98.57 and for both sites. For Dean in particular, the reason that you see the difference here for the waste management fee between Hawthorne Street and the satellite facilities is that the capital expenditures from the satellite facilities that we have contracts with, they bill that directly to the cities that are directing their material to them. So it's not that they're getting any sort of cost break or anything like that. It's just that the cost is shifted over into the franchise haul agreements rather than directly to us. So we're not looking at any changes to those. The non-standard material fees are a part of our resolution. So you'll note that in table 6, for those of you who have been more familiar with our resolution that implements our cost structure, we have a number of specialty items, if you will. And so the changes that we're proposing, number one, with asbestos, we're looking at doing a singular fee of $10 for commercial and residential customers, plus actual material weight. Currently, we charge $125 for the singular fee to commercial customers. It doesn't require any difference in handling, and after going through some analyses, it just makes sense that we are charging commercial and residential customers the same rate, and that's $10 plus actual rate. So that's the benefit of the business sector. With respect to carpet, we currently have been receiving carpet for recycling, and we're proposing to reduce the fee from $90 a ton to $10 a ton, and making sure that we simply have a minimum fee of $2 for any material that's coming in under a ton. We don't usually get a ton of material at any given point unless it's a pretty sizable project. With respect to e-waste, we are proposing to reduce residential fees from 5 cents a pound to 0, essentially making it no charge. We would be retaining the charge to our commercial customers, 5 cents a pound, primarily because when they're bringing in the material, it's a significantly higher amount. We need to make sure that we're able to handle it and then package it when it's coming in terms of that volume. And we'll continue to evaluate these. With respect to tires, currently tires are a bit of an interesting matrix that people have to go through. Is it what kind of tire it is the rim on or off, and what is the weight? So it's very difficult for us to assess to people how much would it cost if I drop off a tire. So we're looking at making a singular fee by tire type, whether or not the rim is on. So we have those. It'll streamline our services and also streamline the cost that people are anticipating having to spend when they bring in tires for disposal. With respect to green waste, we've discussed on and off since 2015 the need to adjust green waste rates, in particular for franchise deliveries to the Hawthorne Street transfer station. There's two ways that green waste comes in. One is that green waste can be hauled directly to Mad River Hardwoods, and so that's typically an agreement that we have with the city of Arcata for their residential customers to send material there, as well as their franchise hauler can haul direct to Mad River Hardwoods. And we're looking at adjusting the fee to $59 for direct delivery of that material. That covers actual cost. And we are proposing no change to the $90 charge at Hawthorne Street Transfer Station, except that we are now having the franchise material pay that same fee. So in particular for Dean and for Amy, for the county in Eureka, Recology delivers the material to us, and we then have to load and then have transported through another contractor that material to Mad River Hardwoods. So there's an additional cost. And so it appears that maybe Arcata is getting a cost break. The difference is simply they're bypassing the need to have us load the material and send it there. This does represent a change to Eureka and the county because you're currently paying, I think, $51.50 a ton, and it's been subsidized by the public. So our actual cost is closer to $85 a ton, and the material has been subsidized by the public haul, and that's how we've been making that line item kind of equate, if you will. I'm willing to have a conversation with Amy and Dean because this is new information. I haven't had a chance to talk with your staff at all because they haven't come into our meetings. We did suggest over the last couple of years that the franchise hauler be requested to do an analysis for direct haul of that green waste to Mad River Hardwoods, because it may be that it's less expensive to bypass our facility. But I'm not sure that that has been done. And I can certainly circle back with Linda. She was looking at doing that analysis about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And I think it's just fallen off the radar because, hey, no shortage of dramas for us all to be dealing with. So with respect to table number 10, which is also one of our non-standard material fees. This pertains to the recycling processing agreement and the rate adjustment request that Recology is allowed to make on an annual basis. The current rate is $88.91, or it's $69.56 once it's been adjusted with the residual credit to our participating agencies. Basically, HWMA takes the residual waste coming off the back end of the sort line, and we accept and handle the waste disposal, transportation and disposal fees. Recology is requesting a rate adjustment to $105 per ton. So basically Fortuna would be getting the same charge also, as well as their other customers. Our adjusted rate would be then $85.65 a ton. This does represent a 23% increase. As we've gone through the rate application, we've continued to attempt to validate the information that Recology has provided to us, the financial information that they've given, as well as continuing to request supporting information for it. And basically, we're just continuing to find that information provided doesn't agree with the underlying data, or even support some of their recommendations. But bottom line is they are looking at a 23% rate increase. Part of that is comprised of a 500% transportation fee increase and building in a CPI. Karen and a number of other folks will remember when we went through the negotiation process that the whole purpose of doing the annual rate adjustment would be that we wouldn't be doing an automatic CPI. So on Friday, I've gotten some additional clarifying information from Linda that we're continuing to take a look at. And our recommendation to the board, there is one other item, which is the residual tonnage that they're reporting to us has been at 15%, but their application is asserting it's really 23%, but we're not getting the backup that we need to see on that particular information. Finally, they had stated in their application that certain data from that 12 months of initial operation is unusable data for determining the adjusted rates. And this is primarily because they had a lot of their material put into storage for a period of time while they were going through the facility upgrade and then incorporating it in, which created some contamination issues. So that was interesting. So our recommendation for the board is that the recycling fee remain unchanged, primarily because of those inconsistencies in the application. And we are just going to continue to examine the information. And I'm certain that there's going to be considerable pushback from Recology. And we're working at trying to find a pathway forward. And I just want to remind everybody that this was before the pandemic landed on us. And recycling market has really taken an additional hit in terms of the valuation of material. So with that, I'm going to move on to our personnel compensation and related funds. As noted, we're looking at a 8.12% increase, and it's inclusive of these items. Our reserve, and I probably need to get rid of the trust fund because we no longer have a trust fund now that we've closed the Cummings Road landfill. But all of our reserves are fully funded and to the tune of a little over $2 million. We are looking at having an allocation of $15,000 for the North Coast RMDZ, which is to benefit all of our member agencies as well as Del Norte County. Hopefully they'll decide to start kicking in some money for some support. And then of course we were looking for other board direction at that time. We didn't receive any additional input. That is it. The fastest I can make that presentation go.
Thank you, Jill. Really appreciate that. A couple of things. There are all of the slides, not the slides, but all of the graphs and tables are in the agenda packet that was sent out. It might be helpful for some of us to have the slides also, just
sure.
As we're putting together budgets and talking points around that. Why don't I go ahead and just do a quick roll call for questions around that? Kyle, any questions?
No, just one thought I would just put out there is that I think you said that the level of waste coming in and the tonnage assumptions are going to be lined up. I guess I would be curious to see if there was something where you could monitor the composition of the waste somehow and detect people cleaning out their homes right now. It just seems like with lower levels of economic activity, the tonnage numbers would go down.
Mhm.
And maybe that's not readily apparent right away because people are like cleaning out their homes or something. It's just a thought. There's no need to comment on it, but just a thought.
We've actually done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Amy from the county.
I do not have any questions at the moment.
Okay, Dean.
No questions, thank you.
All right, Mandy.
Yeah, Jill, is there any thought, with all of this stuff going on with COVID, and we're starting to see how communities need to be thinking about resiliency and kind of taking care of our own if we do have to kind of island from other communities. Is there any thought about how recycling could lend itself to any type of small business development or economic development? I know with like the loss of fire and light, with glass, or like, are there any small scale opportunities that possibly could be looked at with some of maybe the more diverse use of rural development funds or EDA funds that could help, or might be a little creative for, just kind of our communities?
The short answer is yes, and we built that into the agreement that we have with Recology, so that if there is a local market, that the material would be available to them. But at this juncture, we just haven't seen those businesses, emerging forward. So the answer is we have the ability, but we need to have that economic incentive so that people would want to basically take the risk to develop the industry that would be able to utilize that material.
All right, Eli, I know you don't have a vote, but any questions from Trinidad on waste management for the next year?
Yeah, no questions.
Okay, Merritt, any questions? No, okay, sounds good. Anybody want to make a motion to support the approval of the 2020-21 budget, recommended the final budget to the board of directors?
So moved.
I'll make second.
All right, so motion by Eureka, second by Rio Dell. I'll do a quick roll call vote. Rio Dell,
Yes.
County of Humboldt,
Yes.
City of Eureka,
Yep.
City of Blue Lake.
Yes.
All right, and the City of Arcata is a yes as well. We shouldn't have voted first. Tyler, I'm assuming you were going to text me if we had any other public comment. Tyler, any other public comment coming in today? Excellent. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the executive committee of the HWMA JPA. Any final thoughts, Jill?
Only that I will see if I can circle back to Amy and Dean, and Amy will make sure we can fold Tom into the conversation.
That would be marvelous.
Okay, we'll take care of that.
All right, and Tyler, thank you. I was kind of switching technologies on Tyler late in the day, so I appreciate him being flexible.
And Karen, maybe if you would just follow up on the question that you and I talked about with the state minimum wage, and I'll just go ahead and sign off. And it was really great to see all of you.
Oh yeah, and we can do that quick. Sarah, you might have a quick answer for Jill, actually. One of the questions that came up is has the league made any formal requests, or have you heard any talk at the state level of delayed implementation of the mandatory minimum wage increases with the COVID?
So that goes along with all the statutory requests that we're making to the administration. And so we have a laundry list that we continue to add to, and those conversations are still being had. I think the state is still looking at every single thing and seeing how all the puzzle pieces fit together, but that's certainly something we're asking about.
Okay.
It's the unpopular answer, but. the truth.
It's a good answer. If the state was actually looking at moving forward, then that might change how we're approaching our compensation survey recommendations. So it's already built in. We're ready to do this. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something obvious happening out there. I just haven't found it. Okay, excellent. Thank you all. Good to see you.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay.